longevity in this nation, and I think in all the first world countries. And I just don't understand why. Why do we want to live longer? Especially since in this nation, ostensibly, we're a Christian nation. I mean, not really anymore, obviously. And that was always bullshit. But it's only, in the grand scheme of things, very recently become evident that that's bullshit. I think that 50, 60, 70 years ago, America was calling itself a Christian nation and actually doing a good job of convincing itself that it really was. So I want to take things from that viewpoint for a second. Imagine that you are in America in the 50s. You're a guy in the 50s who recently was in World War II. You probably didn't even fight in the war for very long, but you were in the army just long enough to get to say that you were in the war. And you came home from the war and you got a job, and you don't have to do much at the job. You really just go out and play golf and talk shop with some asshole who, I don't know how finance bros do their thing. They just make deals or whatever, and you get deals and you make money. And you get to drink all day because you're talking shop. And then you go home and you got a wife and 2 kids and a house. You used to have 3 kids, but the eldest son got written out after the first season, and nobody really talks about where he is or if he even ever actually existed. Maybe that was a fever dream. Anyway, you got a wife and 2 kids and a dog and a house. And you could afford all that. You got a car. You probably got 2 cars. You can afford that too. Not only can you afford all this shit, you can also afford to have an affair with your secretary and buy her jewelry and flowers once in a while. And that's not even too much of a hit on your bank account. But, you're a Christian. You probably don't go to church every fucking weekend, but, you definitely go on Easter and on Christmas, and you say the Pledge of Allegiance when you go to baseball games, and you don't have a problem with the under God part. So for all intents and purposes, you're a Christian, okay? And you're watching as science and technology advances, and you watch this shit happen through your whole life, through the 50s, 60s, 70s, however long you manage to live before you have a heart attack from all the alcohol that you drink at those golf games. But you never stop to ask yourself, why all this advancements? Why all these advancements in medicine and healthcare? Not the actual healthcare, but the you know what I mean? Why all the advancements in the hospitals with their actual technology and their understanding of medicine? You never stop to ask yourself why. And of course you don't, because you've got a good life. You've got a good life. But you don't really stop and think about, but I also believe in something even better than this. I got all this shit. And there's actually something even better awaiting me, which is heaven. Because you're a Christian. So you believe in God, and you believe that if you go to church, at least on Easter and Christmas, and say you're sorry for having the affair with your secretary, you believe that you'll go to heaven. But you don't even, your life is so good that you don't even stop to think about the logic of that. If you're going to go to heaven, and it's going to be even better than what you have now, why do you care about living so long on this earth? That's what the advancement of medicine and technology is for. It's for prolonging human life on this earth. But why do we care? if we're going somewhere better. And I really think that it's a Jeff Goldblum, Jurassic Park, your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think about whether or not they should type of situation. I genuinely think that to be old is to be miserable. I have never met a single person who is above the age of 60 who seems happy. And I don't care if they say that they're happy. I don't care if they smile. You know, I realize that there's some people in the old folks' home who do a good job of appearing happy, but that's because they're insane. Their brains are old. Even if they don't have dementia, they have still very much lost touch with reality in the way that you and I think of it. So they may be experiencing some moments of happiness reading their recipe books or watching Murder, She Wrote, or whatever the fuck they do in old people's homes these days. And I'm sure that they get plenty of joy out of seeing their grandkids, but, you know, they're not happy. They have had to redefine what happiness means in order to claim that they are happy. They are in constant pain because they are hyped up on several decades worth of advanced medicine and advanced technology that has kept them alive longer than they were supposed to be alive. You know what I think? I think that when people used to get sick at like age 25 or 30 or 40, that was nature saying, you're done. It's over. You're going to get sick now, and you're going to be laid up in bed for a month, and then you're going to die. I think that there is a cult of longevity. Humanity wants to live forever. As a collective, humanity wants this. That's the ego. The ego wants to live forever. That's the Luciferians. The Luciferians want to become God. They want to live forever. Okay? They want to live forever on this plane, in this dimension, because they fear the next dimension. It depends probably on the individual. They may fear eternal punishment, but probably most of them are smart enough to realize that eternal punishment doesn't exist outside of being in samsara, which I would call eternal punishment, or hell. I think being in this fucking plane of existence is hell. Now, it's not the Tom and Jerry hell where you fall down the steps of heaven and then end up in a boiling pot and there's a little red devil who cooks you and pokes you with a pitchfork. That doesn't exist. But I do think that this life is hell. And maybe you believe in reincarnation and the wheel of samsara, or maybe you don't. Maybe you just believe in this one incarnation. Okay, fine. It's still hell. Every Christian wants to say hell is the absence of God. Well, look the fuck around. This is the absence of God. He's not here. He is not here. Okay? And just because you go to church every day and sing Amazing Grace and gaslight yourself into having goosebumps, that don't mean God's there either. And there's plenty of people who have already done this. This is not my original thoughts, but I need you to, if you're here listening to me as opposed to somebody else who's already logicked this whole thing out, it's because, you know, you're supposed to be listening to me. It's because I think that most of us, we're not supposed to be preachers or gurus. I think there's a couple of people that each of us are supposed to wake up after we've been woken up. You know, I was woken up by somebody who's probably not going to wake up many other people. Just like I think that I'm going to wake up one or two people, and then that's it. And I think that's just how it goes. That's the domino effect. So if you're here right now, you're here because you need this knowledge phrased in the way that I'm going to phrase it, okay? So I realize none of this is my original thought, okay? But here's the deal. The deal is God's not here. This is hell. And there is no fiery pit of hell. Logic this out with me for a second. What would be more hell than the Tom and Jerry Paradise Lost view of hell? What would be worse than, you know, bald-faced eternal punishment? I'll tell you what would be worse. The idea that you might not be in eternal punishment. This is a world that has just enough beauty in it to trick you into thinking that you're not in hell. But you are. Because what's worse than there being evil all the time? If there's evil all the time, then you don't even realize there's evil. You would go numb to it. Okay? That's why what we have here is a situation where you get to taste goodness and you get to taste beauty and see what that's like just long enough that you get an understanding of it, and then you watch it die. Okay? That's why when you were a kid, you got the joy of seeing what it's like to watch a puppy run around at the fucking PetSmart. And then on the way home, you saw a different dog dead on the side of the road, smashed to pieces by a car. That's hell. Hell is not constant death. It's a taste of life and then the experience of death. That's how you get pain out of it. That's how you get torture out of it. Therefore, that's how hell functions. So you're in hell, just by the way. Okay? But I do think there's plenty of Luciferians who don't see it that way. I think that they have this idea that, you know, they can Neville Goddard manifest their way into living a heavenly life on this plane of existence. At the very least, they are more willing to bank on that as being a possibility than they are, you know, they don't want to bank on dying and then whatever the next life is. They either think that they're going to get, you know, space blasted by God for being wicked, or they think that they're going to be trapped back in the wheel of samsara by the archons, or I don't know what they think, but it doesn't really matter what they're trying to avoid. All that matters is they don't trust the next life. They don't want to bank on that. What they want to do is live as gods in this reality. And so there's a cult of longevity. And they want to be here forever. And that's why they have been spearheading advancements in medicine and technology. Is because the medicine is to keep our biological bodies alive as long as possible. And then the technology part is so that eventually we can transfer our consciousness onto a computer and live forever as a digital brain. Just like Zola in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. That's what they want for themselves. They want to be able to download themselves onto the computer And like, imagine you could use a computer without using your hands. Imagine you were the computer and you could play Minecraft all day without touching the keyboard. You would just be in Minecraft. And you'd be in creative mode doing whatever the fuck you want. That's what the Luciferians want for themselves. Okay? That's what the Freemasons want. That's what everybody who pretends that they're not a Luciferian and pretends that they're something else. That's what they all want. And they also want us to want to live forever. Why? Well, part of it might be energy. I think part of it might be like they want the entire globe to be striving for the same goal. You know, if we all pour our energy into the same goal, even subconsciously, then that makes it more likely to happen. And I think also that it's because they want to farm us. They want to do what they've already been doing for thousands of years in various capacities and various methods, which is they want to have us as slaves. And then when they become computers, they want us to be batteries, just like in the Matrix. The Matrix is such a tired example. If this was scripted, I wouldn't have even name dropped the Matrix, but fuck it. Fuck it. It's always referenced because it's the best possible example of what they want to do when they become the computers. So there's a cult of longevity, and you should not be a part of it. You should want to die. If you're a Christian, you need to take a good, long, hard look at yourself and ask yourself, am I really ready to die? Because all these Christians, they want to say, I've been baptized and I just can't wait to meet Jesus. I can't wait to meet Jesus up in the clouds on the rapture day. Bullshit. You're scared out of your mind. You're terrified of dying. You're terrified. If you weren't terrified, then you would not do half of what you do with your time. And you would not worry about half the things you worry about. You're scared because some part of you deep down doesn't trust in God. And by the way, I mean, this is a whole separate conversation, but by the way, it's because you don't know everything there is to know. It's because exoteric Christianity, doesn't matter if it's Protestant or Catholic or whatever, it doesn't tell you everything there is to know. And so really, it's that your brain on some level understands that you've been lied to. If nothing else, you've been lied to via omittance. And so you're paranoid about what you're missing out on. You know that there's information you're missing out on, and you're paranoid about it. So you're scared. You're a Christian who believes in heaven and believes that their soul is saved, but you're scared. Explain that, would you? Explain that to me. Logic that one out for me. You're a part of the cult of longevity, and you're an idiot for that. You should want to die. I don't mean be suicidal, okay? Killing yourself is low vibrational, all right? I'm not radical enough to think you should be blowing yourself up, okay? I'm not radical enough to think you should be slitting your wrists. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you should look forward to the day that God or the universe or fate or whatever you want to call it declares you are done on this plane of existence. You can come back to heaven now. You should be looking forward to that, and you're not. You're not. Because part of you doesn't even think it's there. Part of you is concerned that you're not going to go to heaven. And you know why you're concerned of that? It's because, I won't even get off into that. But it goes back to the samsara and the archon thing, I think. But you just need to check yourself. You need to ask yourself whether or not you're actually ready to die. How attached are you to worldly things? This is why Christ taught detachment. You're too attached to everything. That's part of it too. If you don't want to go down the wheel of samsara route and you don't want to deal with the theory of the archons, okay, I hear you. That's pretty schizo. It's pretty out there. We won't go down that route today. Let's just talk about attachment and detachment. You don't want to die because even though we're not in the 50s anymore, you're still acting like that 50s husband who's got it so good that he doesn't want to say goodbye to all of it. That's why he never questioned the longevity thing. That's why he never questioned why we're doing all these advancements in medicine and technology. It's because he likes the idea of sticking around as long as he can. He likes his alcohol, he likes his golf games, he likes sex with his wife and sex with his secretary, and he doesn't want to say goodbye to it. He likes his fast car, and he doesn't want to say goodbye to it. And even the good things have to be detached from, by the way. He likes his kids. He wants to see his kids grow up and be all-stars in college football or whatever. And he wants to meet his grandkids. It doesn't matter that these are good things, at least on the surface. You have to detach from everything. If you don't detach from everything, you will never want to die. If you don't want to die, then you like it here in hell. You like it in hell. Think about that. You're in hell and you like it. Those are the two big wow moments that you get to have today. Those are the two big aha moments. So think about that and find a way to eject yourself from the cult of longevity that you accidentally signed up for.